So do you ever come outside on a nice sunny day like today? And you just want to enjoy your backyard, enjoy the nature, right? But then there's something ominous, something just in the distance.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
Why is this? Why is that ruining my view? What is that? Why do we have these? What is their purpose? You ever wonder? So that thing that is just ruining the view and ruining everyone's view. It's called a water tower. See, water towers have been around for a very long time, but not exactly in the same way that we see them nowadays. Humanity is old, like really, really, really old. And originally, what we did in order to move water around was we created the aqueduct. The Romans are the best example for this. Their aqueducts are still in use in a lot of places all across Europe. And aside from them, plenty of other ancient civilizations had similar systems. But it wasn't until the year
1738.
that a man named Daniel Bernoulli developed the math to describe the properties of a fluid in motion. Today we call this Bernoulli's equation, and engineers still use it to build things like, you guessed it, water towers. So to help better explain Bernoulli, who he was, why what he did was so important, so I reached out to a friend of mine, and together we're going to build a backyard water tower, and hopefully we'll be able to use Bernoulli's principle to predict the outcomes at various points throughout the system. Hi. Oh. Yeah? It's good talk.
Who likes science?
You like science?
You like science? All right, guys. So here we have Bernoulli's bucket. All it is a bucket filled with water to a certain level. We got some valves, some piping, some clear tubing, and a couple of different outlets to be able to kind of show Bernoulli's principle in action, kind of explain Bernoulli's equation, his famous equation. So here we have water filled up to 2 meters above the ground, which should allow us to calculate exactly how much pressure we have at the bottom. So rho GH, the density of water, times the acceleration due to gravity, times the height of the water, should give us the pressure while the water's not moving. So we don't have any water flowing, so there's no velocity change. So here you can see the water of the pipe, as well as this first tube. You can see the water level is also at the same level, and same here with this third tube. They're all at the same level because no water is moving. So you're just dependent on the weight of the water and gravity of Earth. So that's the initial setup. Then once we turn this on, you'll see some things move and change. All right, so right now we've got water here. This valve's open, means we got water all the way through here, through these tubes. You have this valve closed, means no water's coming out of the system right now. We also have this valve closed, which means this section of tubing, this section of piping and tubing is completely dry. So what I'm about to do is I'm going to open this valve, allow this to fill up full of water, and as we do that, you'll see the water level as it decreases here. You'll see the levels change and then level out across each of these 3 tubes to show that the pressure has been equalized. All right, so right now we got it filled up full of water. Water level decreased a little bit. We got some air bubbles that I'll get out of this tube. All right, now that we got all the air bubbles out, you can see that we have an equal water level across all 3 tubes that is equal with the holding tank. All right, so we've got the first valve open, so we are running water out into my nice pretty ice chest here. We have got the garden hose on to keep the level in the tank at the same level, so that way we don't have a difference in head pressure, and we can just look at the head loss and the velocity difference in the system. So you see here we've got a steady reservoir tank, but unlike earlier when we had equal level across all of our tubes, we have now lost pressure here, and we are down to this level here in the first tube, and then we have lost even more and are down all the way down to here in this second tube. All of that from our head loss while the system is in motion. Alright, so now we have shut off the center and we are open on the last valve of the system. So with this one, we've got much more tubing, many more bins and corners for the water to run into to create that friction and that major and minor head losses. As you can see, we still have a reduced pressure in the first line. We have a slightly reduced pressure in the second line, but in the third we have an incredibly reduced pressure in the third line because of all of the major and minor head losses.
So, Joel, what did we see from the experiments that we did? What was the outcome of everything, all that work?
So all that work, we ended up showing that Bernoulli's equation and its principle is valid. It's correct. So I used Bernoulli's equation and I solved for the theoretical and the actual parameters for each of the spouts, the lower and the upper spout, to find out how close we actually got to the theoretical values. And we got pretty close. We were able to use head loss calculations to figure in the loss in pressure due to the bends and the threads and the different connections within the system. But we weren't able to account for everything perfectly. When you're just going down to Home Depot and buying some PVC, it's not exactly exact science. So we got pretty close. There were things such as the glue that we used to glue the PVC together. Some of that could have seeped into the inner wall, so was, water was bouncing off of that. The tubes that we used to measure the pressure heights, those protruded into the pipes slightly, so that was causing a little bit of turbulence within the pipes themselves. So, but all in all, it went pretty well. I think we, without a doubt, found that the pressure difference between the two heights was there. It was close to what the equations showed they should be. We measured the flow rate out of each nozzle, the lower and the upper one, and the lower one had almost double the uh, upper nozzle. So it was definitely a win for science, a win for Bernoulli.
Awesome. So then the other question I guess would be why do we have water towers in the way they are? Like why do we need something like that all the way up there in the air? Why do we need so many of them?
That's a good question. So I used to think, well, I mean, this is just an old thing. Some old guy put a tank of water in the air and said, "Hey, this will work." Um, but it's 2023. Why don't we just put a water pump in everybody's house and just pump everybody the exact amount of water they need? Well, that requires a lot of work, a lot of energy. And with Bernoulli's equation and its principles, we can exploit gravity to do all that work for us for free.
So thanks for helping me with that. I appreciate it. That was an interesting question with the whole water towers and all that.
Yeah, man, no problem. Thanks for bringing it to me. I always love to do any kind of engineering I can. So this was a great excuse to go buy some PVC and build something interesting to show a engineering principle in action. Thanks to y'all for watching. If anybody watches this, this is our first video, so hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully we get an A for our project.
You better.
Thanks.